Hey everyone, how's it going? Alright, so it's June 2019. We're a couple of months past the release of the Crimson Curse expansion, and the Gwent meta has settled fairly nicely, depending on your opinion of Skellige. If you're new to the game, then you're undoubtedly trying to make the best decks you can with what's probably a pretty limited card collection. Now if you're in this position and you need every card you craft to count and fit into any and all decks, then this list is for you. In my opinion, these are the 5 most versatile cards in Gwent right now, and will slot in nicely to basically any deck you make. And also keep in mind that this list may become irrelevant as new cards are released and older ones are changed, so I'll put a link in the description to any new versions of this video that I make in the future. Alright, let's get into it. So first up is Cleaver. He's got 3 power and a cost of 10 provisions. And while his cost has recently been increased, I believe he's still a great removal option that can provide a ton of value. He's not a huge board presence, but his deployability of damaging a unit by the number of cards you have in your hand provides up to 9 points of damage, which can be really massive. Just make sure to use him before your hand gets too small, and remember he has a reach requirement of 2. A nice bonus is his dwarf tag, which might come in handy if you're playing Scoia'tael. Cleaver's an epic rarity card, and he'll cost you 200 scrap. Once a staple in nearly every deck, Roche has fallen off a bit in terms of popularity in the last wee while due to a recent increase in his provision cost. Like Cleaver, Roche has 3 power and costs 10 provisions, but its ability of being summoned from your deck whenever you play a gold card provides valuable thinning and offers a nice point bonus to the first gold card you play. On its own, the card is terrible value, so make sure to utilize Roche's ability when possible. It's also worth noting that if you play Nilfgaard, Roche works exceptionally well with Asaya, as her ability can shuffle a card from your graveyard into your deck and will pull Roche on her own, allowing you to use him again. Roche is an epic rarity card, and so he will cost you 200 scrap to craft. Now some people may tilt their heads at my inclusion of Oculus in this list, but I'm standing true. A 5 power 10 provision dragon, Oculus order ability damages all enemy units by 1. It's best used as a late game finisher, and it can provide excellent value if your opponent has gone wide on the board. The downside is that the ability is in order, so your opponent has a turn to deal with it before it can trigger. So make sure to keep that in mind and play it appropriately. Also, if you're playing Northern Realms, Oculus also works great with Sabrina as a powerful late game finishing move. Oculus is an epic card and will cost 200 scrap. Most commonly seen in control decks, Vigo's Muzzle is an extremely powerful special card. It's quite expensive at 12 provisions, but when used correctly it can really be devastating. The card allows you to lock and seize an enemy with 5 or less power, allowing you to shut down enemy engines, death wishes, and get a sizable point swing to boot. Or definitely more effective against certain decks. As a baseline, Vigo's Muzzle is a really high performer, and sometimes it will just decide the outcome of rounds on its own if you use it at a critical time. It's a legendary rarity card and will cost 800 scrap to craft. Regis Bloodlust is a relatively new addition to Gwent as it came with the latest expansion, the Crimson Curse. He's a 4 power vampire that costs 10 provisions and provides 4 points of damage through his deployability, which has 2 reach. There's also the added bonus of banishing the unit if it dies, so it won't trigger any death wishes and it won't go to the graveyard. Like a lot of cards on this list, Regis has been recently nerfed for being just too efficient, but he's still a great neutral removal tool. As a legendary rarity card, he costs 800 scrap to craft. Now as a side note, if that's too expensive but you need some neutral removal, then an alternative is the Enraged Ifrit. It's got the same power, provisions and deploy, but it doesn't banish the unit on death and it has no reach requirement. Enraged Ifrit is an epic rarity card and will cost only 200 scrap to craft. Now, I've got 3 bonus cards here, which, while good, are somewhat reliant on the meta being in the right place for them, so use discretion when you're crafting these ones. The first is Gimpy Gerwin, a 3 power 9 provision unit. He punishes all decks that play multiples of the same card, as his deployability damages an enemy and all copies of it by 3. Consider putting this card in your deck if you're running into decks that make a lot of copies of units, such as Cadwini Revenants in Northern Realms or Slave Infantry in Nilfgaard. Gimpy Gerwin is an epic rarity card, but as he's from the Thronebreaker set, he costs 800 scrap to craft instead of the usual 200. Cyprian Wiley is a unique card. He offers 5 power for 9 provisions, and his deployability banishes a unit with 3 or less power. This means that unit will not trigger any death wishes and will be permanently removed from the game. He works best on lower power units with death wish, or engines that have been protected with a shield. Be careful when using him however, as if your opponent has no units with 3 or less power, then Cyprian is a pretty average value when you can't utilise his ability. He's an epic card, and he will cost 200 scrap to craft. Lastly, we have Geralt Professional. While he has the same power as the standard Geralt card, he costs 11 provisions and has a more conditional deployability. Instead of destroying any unit over 8 power, Professional damages the enemy by 3, and if its power is a multiple of 3, it destroys it. I find the choice to include either this or the standard Geralt as more personal preference than anything else. I like Professional more myself, as it provides more versatility for units that are under 8 power and will often have the same effect for ones over 8. He definitely works best with units and leaders that can manipulate unit health though, such as Krak for Skellige or Ethne for Scoia'tael, so keep that in mind if you're considering using him. Like all the Geralt cards, Geralt Professional is of a legendary rarity, and such he will cost 800 scraps to craft. And that's the list. I hope you found it useful, and let me know down below if you would have done anything different for it. Also, I'm going to be making a list like this for each faction over the next few weeks, so let me know what one you'd like to see next. Thanks so much for watching. If you'd like to see me using these cards in action, then I stream 5 days a week, playing Gwent, Monday to Friday, 2 PM Pacific, 5 PM Eastern. There's a link for that in the description. There's also a link to my Twitter if you'd like to follow me for updates, and also the community Discord, so I'd love to see you over there. Thanks again, and we'll see you all next time.